Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Doing well. Thank you for asking. As you can see, I'm here stitching on my By the Bay needle art, 13th Colony Bay, part 1. Do a brief, this is what it will look like when it is complete. As you can see so far, I have everything west of the tree done. I have the entire tree trunk done, and I am working on finalizing up finishing up the lighter colored branches. And then I'm going to put this away for a while, I think. I am stitching this on 46 count linen that was hand dyed by Udit over at XGeraldDesigns on Etsy. XJU Designs. This is the color of the fabric is called Rocky Mountain. It's a nice mottled white gray-ish color. Love it. I think it looks great for the sky. It's just like a nice sky look. So in last week's video, I had asked on Facebook, on the Facebook group, for all of you to answer a question as to what kind of conversation starters can you provide me for questions to answer, as far as so that I have something to talk about in my video. And boy, have you guys and gals gone out of your way to give me some good ones to talk about. And I know last week, I was hoping to use them last week, but then I kind of was like last minute in putting it up on Facebook. And then my friend Minty Stitcher, gave me a nice list of questions that I was able to use in last week's video. So I used those last week, and then today I thought I would start to answer some of those questions that you all, Yins, proposed on that Facebook post. So I will try to get through as many of them as possible without going too overboard on the length of the video. But at the same time, I think it's great that I have a wonderful list of questions that then I can always go back and refer to in future videos if I need something to talk about. And along those lines, since you all are the ones that asked the questions, I'm going to go ahead and shout your names out in the video as well, just because I think it's fun to hear from some of you, some of the names that, you know, are regular posters in the Facebook group. And, you know, these Stitch With Me's were a result of, or the Facebook group was a result of the, was it the Facebook groups were a result of the Stitch With Me, or was it the other way around? I think the Facebook group was a result of the Stitch With Me videos. Anyways, regardless, it's an awesome group, and I think we need to give some shout outs to those wonderful folks who are actively, positively participating over there in that wonderful group. So firstly, if you haven't checked out the group, it is Friday Off the Grid. I do this every time because I can never remember. It is Friday Off the Grid. There, no, it's not gonna. It's not going to fill it in there nicely for us. But it is Friday off the grid, so you can go check that out on Facebook. If you're not a member yet, all you have to do is answer a couple questions so that we know that you are a cross stitcher and how you found out about the group, and you will get added pretty quickly because there's four of us moderators that are pretty quick about adding you guys or you all to the group, and then you get to have fun and participate. It's originally was for the Friday night group, but it's constant updates. I'm always getting notifications that people are posting and some great projects that you can follow and see progress on. I will admit I am a horrible contributor to the group because I always forget to post. But I'm going to make this I'm going to commit to trying to remember to post more frequently. I'm just myself, I am more of an Instagram person just because to me it's a lot easier, and I'm kind of like I'm kind of over the whole Facebook craze. But that's just my own personal opinions and beefs about social media. But anyways, let me I am almost to the end of this strand, so let me just finish off this strand, and then we'll get into the good stuff of the questions from you all. So last night I was stitching up this lighter green part of the lower branch section of the tree, and oh my gosh, I thought that these sections would go quickly, and that took me, I think, 3 hours to stitch. I was watching The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, and I think it took me 3 episodes of The Handmaid's Tale. And I was like, I am not going to bed until that is fully stitched. I could not believe how long that ended up taking me to stitch. I mean, and I'm a fairly quick stitcher, and I do not mind monogamous solid stitching, but wow, that was really getting on my nerves last night, and I don't know why. I think it's just because I was tired and I was ready to go to bed. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish it out to the end of this row, and I'll tie it off, get a new strand, and then we'll start some questions. Let's see. 3 out. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Go ahead and tie it off in the back. I got many questions about my, yes, I have my needle in my mouth. My grime guard. My grime guard was made by Mama Joan. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I can't really see it that well. There's her tag there anyways. she had made me a project bag in this fabric, and she had some fabric left over, and I'm not sure if she has any of this fabric left over or not at this point. She was selling bags in this fabric. She might have used up all the fabric she has. But then at one point I did ask her to make me 2 grind guards in this size, and all you have to do is go on to Made by Mama Jones Etsy store and send her a conversation. And if you're interested in grind guards, she does do grind guards. She doesn't post them in her Facebook group, or she doesn't make grind guards to sell on her store. But if you're interested in, if you're looking for grind guards, all you have to do is send her a message and let her know I sent you, and I'm pretty sure she will be glad to make you up a grind guard. And what I like to do is, because I stitch on such large projects, I ask her to make them a little bit deeper just to be able to hold the excess fabric a little bit easier, and there's not so much, or the fabric just is able to sit in the pocket a little bit better whenever you wrap it up on the sides of the Q-snap. Okay, let's get this started here. So yeah, if you ever go to Made by Mama Jones, just say I sent you. That way she knows where the business is coming from. I think that's always a great tool to use anyways, just because for a small business owner, it's always great to know where the business is coming from. Just because you like to know who's either shouting you out or giving you a good review. What just happened here? There we go. Having a hard time getting this one started for some reason. What I do when I start my threads, whenever I only have one strand, because this is 46 count 1/2, I'll hold the end in the back, and then I just stitch over it a few times. But for some reason, I'm just having a hard time getting it started. And because I'm so used to doing it this way, I usually like to start a strand from the right and work to the left. It's just easier for me because I am a two-handed stitcher, and I can hold it with my left hand and then stitch with my right until I get it secured down nice and tight. Okay, a drink of my coffee. Pull up our questions. And the first question comes from Dawn. And I'm going to butcher your last name, and I'm sorry, Dawn. Mar. And I believe Dawn is the one half of the Codependent Knitters. I think that's the Dawn that is asking the question. And she asks, if you could time travel, who would you go back in time to meet, and what would you talk about? Oh, and as a caveat, I did read these questions as they were being posted, but I don't remember what these questions are at this point. So I have not put any deep thought into these questions at all yet. So, if you could time travel, who would you go back in time to meet, and what would you talk about? Oh my gosh. There are so many people I would be interested in talking to. It would depend upon the era but one person I would definitely, and this goes back to my college, my undergraduate degree is in music education, and my absolute most favorite composer is Johann Sebastian Bach. And I think if I were to answer this question, I would probably go back in time. I know all of you would probably think I would go back in time to talk to Henry VIII, and no, I don't think he would be the one I would talk to. I think I would be more interested in going back in time and talking to Johann Sebastian Bach and talk to him about the music during that time period and see how the organ, what it was like for the pipe organ whenever in its heyday. You know, Johann Sebastian Bach was writing and composing music during the prime, the infancy of the pipe organ. And the pipe organ is one of my absolute favorite instruments. Actually, probably is my favorite instrument just because of its enormity and volume. I absolutely love walking into a concert hall or a cathedral or a church and hearing a pipe organ playing loud. So I think having a conversation around what was going on during the time period that caused him to write so many wonderful pieces of music and what his inspirations were for so many of his masterpieces. So, very good question, Don. Thank you, and we'll be right back. Okay, I had a phone call there I had to take. So, anyways, my next question is one I've answered many times before, but I don't mind answering again because many of you might be new to my channel and haven't watched those previous videos. Is from Laura Johnson Ellis, and she asks, what are your favorite books? Now, I used to be a very avid reader, and ever since I received a concussion, and that's where my migraine spawned from. Just a little bit of background information. I have not read a book since. So, but I can tell you what some of my favorite books were since before that. I was a more traditionally historical fiction reader. So my all-time favorite book is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. You can actually Pillars of the Earth isn't there because I don't have it in hardback, but I have the sequel and the trilogy, the third book, the second and third book right there. Those are my favorite. I have all three books. I have the Pillars of the Earth in paperback. That's why it's not there, because I am particular about my books, and they have to be in height, order, and if they're not, it drives me nuts. Next to those are my other favorites, which are Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, which are right there. Absolutely love those. Of the series of the Robert Langdon series, those are my favorites. I've read all the other ones, but haven't really cared for them nearly as much as Angels and Demons is my absolute favorite, just because it deals with the Vatican and religious iconography. And if you look over here just a little bit farther, you can see laying down on the side you can barely read it. It says New York, and that is a book by Edward Rutherford. I think it's Edward, right? Yeah, Edward Rutherford, and that is a historical fiction book based on the the history of the city of New York City. And I have other books of his. Right there is London. I have not read yet because it's like a volume. New York is the book I read when I was moving to Korea for the year, and I read that fairly quickly as I read a lot of that on the plane over to Korea, as that's like a 17-hour flight. Um, but it's basically New York is a volume that revolves around individuals, but then also it goes through generations of specific families through the history of New York City. And it starts all the way back whenever it was originally New Amsterdam, a Dutch colony, and then goes all the way through to the 21st century. Very, very good book. If you're into historical fiction and haven't read that yet, I highly suggest and recommend Edward Rutherford. Very good books. They are long, but well worth it. And to me, I think they're fairly easy to read. They're not heavy and dense like a lot of historical fiction can be. So yeah. So thank you for the question. That is my favorite books. Pam Eisenreich, and again, I do apologize if I pronounce any of the names wrong. I am not very good with name pronunciation. Um, Asks, what is your dream vacation? My dream vacation at this point is because I've already gone to my number one dream location, which is Hong Kong. So my absolute dream vacation is to go to Old World Europe. I would love to take a Viking river cruise down the rivers of the Old World and go to Prague and Budapest and those cities. Oh, I didn't even count. How many do I need to have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in the fifth row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth row. I need 2. Went way too far. So I would love to just go to Europe in general because I've never been to Europe. I've been to Asia, but I've never been to Europe. So very much would like to go to Europe. Of course, go to London, and then of course go to Germany, Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, all those old world, Prague, Budapest, Rome. I definitely want to get to Rome. Just do the continental Europe tour type stuff. Very good questions so far. We'll answer a few more. Okay. Ann Thompson Vogel asks, what is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you? Oh my, usually when embarrassing things happen to me, I usually try to block them out of my mind. And I mean, let me tell you, a lot of embarrassing things have happened to me. And I've kind of gotten used to it because that's life, isn't it? Being, part of life is to be, I think that's humankind to be, everyone has their ways of being embarrassed or being, they have their things that create anxiety around them, which causes you to feel like you're embarrassed, even though other people might not see it as embarrassment. You might perceive it as embarrassment. So, I really don't know because I don't really, after things happen like that, I don't even really dwell on the negatives like that. I tend to forget about those kind of things. Just like these kind of conversations I have with you, once I have the conversation, or once I usually talk about it and post the video, I often forget about what I said. So when I go back to read the comments, if somebody's posting a comment from a video that was from a while ago, I really do not remember what I talked about. Even like this video, I will probably forget what I talked about within an hour or two after editing and posting it onto YouTube. Just because there's so much other stuff happening in my life, it's, and I have to be thinking going on to the next thing. So I really don't know. And of course, it again, I try not to I try not to dwell on the negatives anymore. I mean, at one point in my life, I used to dwell on negatives a lot, and I had tried to, and I was more of a pessimist, and now I try to be much more of a optimist and a always try to look at on the positive side. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because I can't remember any horribly embarrassing things, even though I'm sure they've happened. So okay, Linda Bar uh, Bazarski, I hope I pronounced that correctly, asks, "What are your favorite movies?" Ugh. Um, Typically, I am a favorite. My favorite movies are sci-fi fantasy with some action in there, dramas, but like good drama. Like action-oriented dramas. So, of course, Lord of the Rings, Hunger Games. The new Star Trek movies are pretty good. I do like the only comedy. I'm not a big comedy person, but I do like the Sister Act movies from the early '90s. Uh, so I'm gonna go with that for now. But I'm sure there's other movies I really like. But I am not a person that will go back and watch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch movies over and over and over again, unless they are super super good, and then it'll be years and years and years between before I watch it again. Oh, the Harry Potter movies are pretty good. So yeah. Annette Wright says, if you could invite any 5 people for dinner. Oh, I like this one. I remember this one now. Living or dead. Oh, living, dead, or fictional. I think that's. Who would it be, and what would you serve? Oh. Okay, let's cover the first one of what would you serve first. Um, I would probably serve. Trying to think what I serve the most. Corn on the cob. and chicken. I would probably serve baked chicken and corn on the cob. It's probably what I would serve. And the 5 people I would invite over to dinner. Five people I would invite over to dinner. Okay, number one would be Queen Elizabeth II, the current Queen Elizabeth. Because she's the longest reigning monarch in in Great Britain's history, and I think she would have wonderful stories to hear regarding those many years as monarch. Um, Number two would be Robert Langdon from the Da Vinci Code, like from the Dan Brown novels. However, it would not be the Tom Hanks version that's in the movies because I couldn't stand that. It would be the version that I had in my head of Robert Langdon. Number three would probably be oh my um uh, I don't know. Who would I invite? I'm in thought here, people. Let me think for a second while I sit here. Stitch away. Because this is such a good question. I would invite Ken Follett over, the author, because I think he is so knowledgeable into what he writes and I think he would be a very interesting person to talk to. So that would be number 3. Number 4 would be H.H. Holmes. If you don't know who H.H. Holmes is, he is the serial killer from the 1896 Chicago, the Chicago World's Fair of the 1890 something era. He built a hotel in Chicago and basically murdered a whole bunch of his hotel patrons during the World's Fair. There are many books and documentaries written and produced about him. What am I doing here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Went too far again because I'm talking and thinking. And the last one, number 5, would be hmm. Um, I think I would pick. Oh my, I don't know. I'm going to say King Tut. That's who would be, because being a child pharaoh, that would be quite interesting to see his perspective on leading Egypt. Plus, that's quite a interesting mix of people. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about so I'm going to leave the questions there for now, and next week I will answer some more questions. Thank you all again for answering the questions or providing the questions for me. I think they're awesome and they're very, very much thought provoking. And I wanted to real quick, I know on my last video people were asking what kind of floss I was using for this because it seems like it was a lot fiddly and wanting to knot up a lot. I am using DMC for this. It's called for DMC. I think it might possibly be because of the 46 count and it just getting it starts to get worn out over time, and I should probably use shorter strands, but you know me, and I'm lazy, and I just choose not to do that. So it is what it is. But anyways, thank you all for watching, for liking, subscribing, commenting, and participating in all of these videos. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in my next video. And don't forget to always be creative.